True, nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease has sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Listen. Observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Still, you must remember, I loved her. Then, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor at my door, some late visitor at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating. Then, "No longer, sir," said I, "or madam. Truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. I went to the door with a light heart, for what had I to fear? There entered a man, an agent of the law. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, though the crest be shorn and shaven. "Thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on this night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. The officer was satisfied. I was singularly at ease. We sat, and while I answered cheerily, we chatted of familiar things. But soon I felt myself getting pale, and wished him gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears, but still he sat, and still he chatted. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely. It became more distinct to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale. But I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased, and what could I do? What could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I grasped for breath, and yet the officer heard it not. I grasped for breath, and yet the officer heard it not. "Prophet," said I, "thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul, with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend. I shrieked upstarting, "Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would he not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the man, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, louder. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear his hypocritical smile no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now again, hark, louder, 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 on this home by horror haunted. Tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, "Nevermore."